Welcome, dear friends, to Kardec Radio and the program What is Spiritism? Based on the book What is Spiritism by Allan Kardec. This book was compiled a few years after Kardec published its first book, The Spirit's Book. And his intention, as he says in the preface, was to summarize it and also to educate everyone who would be interested through the dialogues between people who would approach him being a skeptic, a priest, any type of visitor who wanted to know more. He would address each and every question. Now we are in the second part of the book when he is talking about the most important foundational principles of Spiritism. And he's being very practical. So we're going to say this to everyone. The word Spiritism comes from the root, right? Spirits. Spiritism without spirits. So it's all about us, our essence. We are spirits living temporarily on earth in this reincarnation. And we also have the interaction between two worlds. Those who depart keep on living. And as he said in the first chapter of the Medium's book, wouldn't you want to communicate with your loved ones? Wouldn't you be interested in doing things that you were doing here, and so on and so forth, to the point that he shares with us that the spirits who are in the spiritual realm are just like us? So if you're envisioning asking a medium to prophesy about your future, thinking that those spirits will know, well, how can you guarantee? Spirits in the beyond, they're just like us. There are different levels. There is the matter of the identity of the spirit. We talked about it last week. Today we're going to continue. And today we're going to talk about the contradictions because they happen, right? They happen. And it depends on the nature of the spirits. We're going to discuss this in greater detail, giving you examples, but I'm not alone. Thank God we have friends here with us, friends who have been dedicating themselves to studying Spiritism and spreading it. And I'm going to introduce you to one of them who is in the north of the United States, our friend Mackenzie Mello, who is part of he's going to say that in English for us. Mackenzie, what's happening here? Okay, now here we are together. How have you been?
I've been great. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for having me here. It's been a long time. It's been a while.
Right.
So I'm really happy to be here and talking
Yes.
to you and to everybody that's watching us now or in the future.
Yes. So, Mackenzie, in the past, in the 13 years of Cardiac Radio, there were years in which he and Francisca Kranz did a beautiful pair up to do programs at Cardiac Radio that you can listen to at our YouTube channel, at Cardiac Flex, at SoundCloud. You can listen to it also in our app 24/7. Every day they are streaming one or two of those programs. But Mackenzie, tell us the city where you're living in now.
Yeah, so I'm in Massachusetts and I live in the city of Salem,
Salem.
which is has
Mhm.
a big history of spiritualism and of things related to spiritualism
Exactly.
on the good side, on the bad side as well. So it's a very historical city in that sense.
So
This yeah,
interesting.
that's Salem. So the center that we go to, the Spiritist Center, is in a town, next town called Peabody, or as some people from outside of here call Peabody, but the locals call it Peabody. And it's our the Spiritist group, little spot of light in Portuguese would be Cantinho de
Yes.
Luz, and a little spot of light. That's
It's
how we call ourselves.
What a blessing. How many years has the center been there?
It's I think this year's gonna be 22 years, or it was 22 years. Yeah, in April. So we're 22 years and running strong.
Yeah, that's a big deal because sustaining the flame is not, it's easy to open, hard to maintain
Right.
it. And you
That is
guys
true.
are keeping it so strong. It's good for us too, Mackenzie. That's wonderful. So, Mackenzie, just a little bit about this book and your encounter with this book. Whenever you read it, what does this book bring to you?
Yeah, I think it like you were saying, I mean, it really brings that idea of introduction, of really bringing you up to speed to what Kardec was doing up to that moment. And it is a really interesting thing to see how after this book then he gets to the other books, and then all these points that are here that are very condensed, but they are only like expanded and we can know more about it. But it really, I love the way Kardec exposes his ideas. He explains what he thinks, how he thinks, the ideas that the spirits bring to them, to him, and to them all, and how he exposes these ideas to us, so that we can go and understand the thought process, understand the idea, understand that we are not just here for to be here. There's a reason behind it, and all the dialogues. And so it is a very, very interesting book. It's a quick read. It's a very good, quick introduction to really what is Spiritism. Perfect title. It's just
Yeah,
like the Spirit's book. Perfect title. What
perfect.
is Spiritism? Perfect title. It's
Perfect.
amazing. Yeah.
I agree with you. It's good to have you here. We'll be back, and now we're having here with us Sergio Santos. He was here a few weeks ago. He's back from Atlanta, Georgia, directly from a new group, the Caritas Spiritist group. He's here with us. Thank you, Sergio. How have you been?
Pretty good. How are you guys?
Good.
Great.
Good.
Good.
Wonderful. It's good to have you here, Sergio. So, again, when we're talking about this book, you have experience with mediumistic meetings as well. And do you think this book will help people who want to know how to deal with mediumship?
I see this book as a big summary. Like I say, like it's a big let's make it very simple,
Yeah,
didactic, like very to the point. So Kardec was a genius to do that. Like because when he released the spirits book, then all those questions, all those problems that people try to bring to
yeah,
the spiritism, he kind of okay, let's answer it like a great scientist of the time, like a great uh, professor, like you mentioned. He's like, okay, let's address all the questions. Let's
yeah,
see what it is and try to explain it. And I think that probably inspired him to do all even the other books and everything. So I see this book as like a great summary. When I have a doubt of something that I'm like, hey, what was that again?
yeah.
He'll be the like the fastest answer.
So true. And it's so interesting because he's not afraid of addressing topics that are controversial. And today, he specifically dedicated a few items to contradictions in the messages received from the Spirit. So he starts in item 97 saying the contradictions that often appear in what the Spirits say should come as a surprise only to observers who merely possess an incomplete understanding of the Spiritist science. So he has said that before. He repeats it time and again, saying to us, if you study, you won't be fooled, not easily. So I'll give an example so we can keep going in the discussion. In the Medium's book, which was published 2 years after the What Spiritism book, in the last chapter, he has a sub chapter talking about apocryphal communications. And he gives examples. So I'll give you just a sentence. A spirit came saying that his name was Vincent de Paul. He says he is Vincent de Paul. So, first of all, we're not impressed by the name, but by the content. It's a short message, but at some point, listen to this. He says, God is a father whose joy is composed of the collective joy of all his children. I mean, what is God? Question one. Right, Mackenzie, Sergio, enter this conversation. Just this sentence. How can we tell that this is not the truth? It's an apocryphal thing. It can't be from Vincent de Paul. How can we reason that? So the joy of God is composed of the joy of all of us. Is that true?
Yeah, so God is actually more sad than joyful, or right? Because
Took
we
the word from me.
so yeah, it's kind of weird to hear that because and Kardec talks about it right at the beginning of the Spirit's book when he talks about pantheism and that God is the collective of everything that exists. And if that, and then he explains, the spirits explain there that if it were so, God would not be perfect because everything is still going on, it's still perfectible, and so on. So um, it is interesting the way Kardec puts it and puts the message there because he wants us to be aware of it so that okay, so it's not just a reading or a superficial reading. We
No.
really have to go deep because I mean we might be fooled by appearances, by good words, by beautiful words, by like writing correctly, writing a good French, writing a, using beautiful words, flourished words, and then all of a sudden you see a sentence in that middle and you just pass by it and you said,
Yeah.
oh no, that's okay, and then you leave it, and then all of a sudden the concept changes. And if we so it is kind of hard and some
Yeah.
to really perceive sometimes these things, but his example is perfect.
And that's so interesting, right, Sergio? Because as Mackenzie is saying, uh, in these spirits that pretend to be someone else, they're trying to do things. You see that they speak some truths mixed with some lies. So, in the very same sentence, he talks about the fact that God uh, is always creating, which is true. But then he comes with the fact that God's joy comes from the collective joy of all of us. As Mackenzie said, if that's the case, God is in trouble because we're angry and sad and 10,000 other things. What do you think, Sergio?
It shows the ignorance of the spirit in a sense. If you think about like that's a belief that many religions, like Mackenzie was touching, like on the past was the belief that like we are God is like the have feelings like we have, is personified like we are, is not like he didn't create us in his example. Is the opposite. We created God in our example, so that doesn't make sense. That's one red flag right there for me as well. Like when a spirit start the conversation already saying who they are, like we like that is to attach like some ego. Even especially if you talk about mediums, they're like, hey, I'm channeling the saint, or I'm channeling this special spirit. And that's a really red flag that we should be looking for as well. Like, calm down, let's really analyze this message. And like you guys were saying on the beginning of the conversation, it's all about the message. It's about what's in there, not who signed it, or the beauty of the language of it, or sometimes the most beautiful language comes from the most simple
Yes.
written way. Like there are many messages there, they're like written in a very poor like they're read like Portuguese or English or whatever it is, very like not sophisticated, but the message is beautiful, and that's what matters. Like like Mackenzie was saying, it's very dangerous for us to like believe it, put our guards down and take like a little phrase here and change our beliefs for our future and go change his laws. That's how they do it. They do
Yes.
very slow so we don't perceive.
Yeah.
So we had to be very like with our guards, like, hey, let's read it.
Yes. So in this case, for people who walk in the streets, like near my house, there's a house, huge house, and they have psychic. It's not me, by the way. I'm not the psychic. Okay,
You should-
it's not me. Just so like, oh, it's but no, it's not me. But then you're like, you go there, you are in trouble. Of course, the people who seek psychics, they must have a problem, which is natural. And then you go there, how do you know if what you're, the message you're receiving is a message that is valid, that is truthful, that is positive? Is it possible that we receive a message that will help us? Of course. But the nature of spirits will dictate the content of the message. That's what Kardec says. And contradictions result from the nature of the spirits themselves. So they'll say, yeah, I'll say something silly here. Like, you're going to get married. No, 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 no. And then later they say, well, it depends. It depends. It depends on. So let's go to the book by Emmanuel, the novels, 2,000 years ago. We love those books by Emmanuel, true accounts, deeply given to us a true context for us to find ourselves there. It's deep therapy for us. And the Christ is always there somewhere. And then we find this girl, Aurelia. I'm saying it in the language that was written in Portuguese. Aurelia and her mother. They are not the nicest person, and they have their evil deeds. So they see a psychic, and the psychic says to Aurelia, according to what I see, the man you want doesn't belong to you. Plinio, he's already promised to be with Flavia.
Huh?
And she says, no, but I want him. Tell me. And then the mom grabs a bag full of money, shows it to him, and says, well, are you sure you can't make anything happen? He says, well, let me see what we can do. So he warns about what's going to happen in her life if she pursues that love, that passion. He has the full description of the disaster, the tragedy that she's going to encounter. And yet, mother and daughter want to pursue it. He accepts the money, gives them the plan and the potions, and then you see the book for the rest of the story. Isn't that a contradiction? He saw that this was not going to work. So, why is he going to participate? Which kind of spirits are with him, Sergio?
For me, it shows exactly what you're saying. Like we are, when we disincarnated, we're still the same. We're still the same level of spirit. So if we don't have the moral guidance to know that that will, well, he actually was actually even advised that he'll be interfering with something, some with some bigger plans. For a psychic to get that perception is something that was like, hey, stay out of it, because for him to get the gift of knowledge of that is very specific. So in that point, he was actually, until then, he was correct, but he sold himself for the money, for the material,
Yeah.
for what we have here. So we can see that his moral wasn't that way. Like, so what kind of spirits are going to be with him, associated with him? What kind of work that he's going to do? Who's going to do that work for him? All those things. Like, you read the book, please. It's an amazing book.
It is,
Like
right?
a lot of like flips, and it's amazing.
Yes. And Mackenzie, how many of us we are surprised, as Kardec says in item 98, that we may be surprised at finding contradictory communications signed by the same name. So the spirit comes, says something, and then says something else. Why does this happen? How can we understand that?
What's in a name, right?
What's in the name?
Yeah, what's in a name? You use the example of the medium's book, and
Yeah.
in the same chapter, there's a message that is from Jesus.
Yes.
So, what's in the name, right? What's in the name? I mean, Jesus might be the baker that lived, you know, it could be anybody. It doesn't matter. But we, like Sergio said, we look at the name, and then all of a sudden, apparently, you have to accept everything that is written there. And why, right? So why should my word, what I'm saying right now, be better than whoever? No. You can listen to me or not listen to me. My name doesn't say anything. It's just a name. It's just who I am right now. I don't even want to cause to mislead anyone, but for whatever reason, maybe I'm misled, and because I like to talk and because I want to talk, I just talk, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
I'm not aware that I'm misleading anyone. So why would a person, whatever the name is, could the person doesn't need necessarily want to, like this Vincent of Paul. It could have been like more than one, but probably not, because it was they usually were advocated, right? They were like called upon. So can you come? And then the spirit would come through the medium with Kardec there, or whoever, and they would say something. So in that case, it could be that they were trying to mislead us, but the contradictions are natural. I mean, I was just reading a book about Peter, but a historical book from a historian, from an American historian, reading talking about Peter, and he says, okay, even in the New Testament, when you get Peter in one of the letters and you get Peter in the
Yeah.
Acts of the Apostles, it's apparently a different person. So when we say that a letter was is the letter of Peter to someone, people that study and study stylistics, study the contents, study what they want to say, they realize that they use the names
Yeah.
because it was an important name, so they want that letter to get to some point,
Yeah.
so they put it there, but not necessarily which one is Peter's and which one is not. What
Yes.
counts is usually uh, or should be what the message contains, and not so. The contradictions are because with the same name, it's because they're not the same spirit. they
Yes.
they have the same name, or they want to use the same name to fool us, but once again, we have to go back and read more carefully, and don't read once only, and don't read only yourself. You have to make other people read and have a discussion, just like we're having here.
That's a rule of thumb, right? Kardec named it the universality of the Spiritist teachings, or the universal power of the authority. So, Mackenzie pointed out that something that we need to mark down. If we are receiving a message, we need to verify. So, I'll give an example. Nowadays, the world is full of commotions. It's the time of the earth. And some mediums come and say, oh my gosh, a disaster is going to happen. I dreamt of it. Do I need to warn people? Question, reasoning. Are you the only medium on earth? Are you the only one? Aren't there other mediums? Why would we divulge an information that would just create despair and chaos? Right? So we have to be very careful when we receive the messages, as Mackenzie is saying. That's why we spiritists work in groups, right, Sergio?
Oh, yeah.
You worked in a mediumistic meeting. There's great power in getting together and operating as a team, like Chico Xavier did, like Divaldo Franco does to date, and many other spiritist mediums around the world. We don't work solo, we work in teams. And we don't have to belong to one single team. We have our team, okay? And there's no Vatican. We don't need to, kiss the hand of a priest or a bishop, archbishop, or the pope. It doesn't exist in Spiritism. If I receive a message, I don't need Divaldo Franco to vouch for the message to say it's valid. Do I, Sergio?
I think the whole idea is to check with other mediums. If Divaldo is one of them, great. But if there's more
Yes.
medium, that's trustworthy, and it's a great medium that prove a lot of work. But not only him, like
No.
you had to ask all the mediums that you know. Hey, I got this. It sounds really important. Who do you know that's a medium? Who do you work with? Start in your own center. Start in your own,
Yes.
not even centers. If you talk about other religions, like the information from the spiritual realm is going to flow. If
Every
it's an important mission, it's important information, it's going to flow. Doesn't matter what religion you are. If you're spiritist, Buddhist, Catholic, whatever you are, you're going to get that inspiration one way or the other. So if that's the case, check around. Did anybody else is having those feelings of the tragic thing that's coming? Did what's going on? Did you get inspired to better yourself, to heal yourself about something, to grow about something in morally speaking? Also all of that, like whoever you follow, like we spiritists are Christians, we follow Christ, but the other religions that follow other philosophies, they all go to the good, to the betterment, to the moral improvement. So if you get those inspirations, okay, that's a good thought, and then I think that's what you have to analyze is the message. Doesn't matter who comes, or if it signs the mental X or mental Z, whatever they sign, doesn't matter. What matters is what they're saying and what you're feeling. And you have to really, really know yourself. And I think that's the biggest challenge on mediums, to like develop and like to work ourselves to like really know what's ours, what's theirs, and to separate. Like, hey, I'm anxious today and I got this premonition. Was that me? Was that a spirit helping me to getting this? Was a spirit using that anxiety to put some ideas in my head that have nothing to do with truth? Like that's where you have to really always meditate, always know thyself. That's the whole point. And always ask others, ask friends, ask family, ask people that you trust.
Thank God
Vanessa,
we have internet, right? And through the internet, we can communicate with people very easily, right, Mackenzie?
all around the world, it doesn't matter where. I mean, it's anytime basically, these groups, and so we can always find someone to ask a question. I guess it's sometimes we just, I don't know. I think that these days we want things so quick in a way. We read a sentence and we already think that we know the whole thing. We read the title of the book and we think that we know the entire book. So we read something and then we never discuss with anybody. We just like repost it, and then it's like as if it's ours, as if it's in, and then that's it. And we take that as a full and complete truth. And it might be a truth, but it might be a portion of the truth and not the entire truth. Which,
Yes.
when we read something else, it might change completely the first sentence to a different thing. And as you were guys were talking, and Vanessa mentioned that 2000 anos, or 2000 years ago, I was remembering a passage from another book of these Emmanuel books, Paul and Stephen, which is also like it's a must read for anyone who wants to learn how to work with God, with Christ, and for the good of everybody, not only for your self interest. It is it is very interesting. There's a passage where Paul is, I think he's in Philippi. I was trying to find it, and so he comes to this part, and this is also narrated in the Acts of the Apostles. So Emmanuel just gives it a little more detail on that passage. But he comes to the town, and then he goes and he finds in the town, he finds this python, right? This girl, this damsel that
Oh, yeah.
that div- that divines, right? And then when he comes to the town, she says, and I found the she says, receive these messengers from God Most High. They are proclaiming salvation. So she is not saying anything wrong per se.
Mhm.
So she's actually like
Yeah.
saying something that that is true. And 2,000 years ago, we see that. But
Yeah.
Paul goes to the opposite side and said, don't come to me with this. Wait, 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 wait. You are not the spirit that I want to be near, because what you're doing is not, you're not promoting the message, you're promoting me, and I don't want and I don't need to be promoted. You need to promote the message. If you want to do something, promote the message. It's not the name. So it is one more time. I mean, she is not saying something that's it's wrong, but at the same time, it is not correct to be said the way it was said there. So it is another. I mean, we could read more and more about the book, but I think it kinds of meshes with what we are talking here. This
Yes.
passage is so profound, is so powerful in that in that area. That's and
So
people
that,
say that there's no mediumship in the Bible, right?
ah, exactly. There's no mediumship. Yeah, exactly. So it's so interesting you said that, because previously when you mentioned the apocryphal message by Jesus in the Medium's book that Kardec discloses, he says about that, the tone. He says, well, in this message there is nothing evil, but did the Christ ever use such pretentious, emphatic, and puffed up language? Just like this girl, the oracle there, like inciting the ego, pride. Would the superior spirit do that? So we need to ask. It's about the content of the message, the tone, and what are we looking for? Coherence with the teachings and congruency. So we need to observe whether or not these messages are coherent. The same for in our lives, for those who are watching us. What is the point of studying Spiritism if we do not want to adjust ourselves, right? If we do not want to do this inner empowerment, and I say this empowerment in the sense of boosting the divine essence in us, not putting us down for imperfections, because actually we're just like a seed that is sprouting. One day I cannot scream at the seed or the little plant and say, come on, where's the tree? You're never gonna be a tree. I can't do this to myself, but I need to aim at cultivating that divine in us. And when we are operating in this communication between two worlds, we also need to be coherent. That coherence will tell us, item 99, Kardec very didactically says, two ways may serve to settle our thoughts concerning issues of doubtful identity. The first is to submit communications to the severe test of reason, common sense, and logic. I mean, in Spiritism, reasoning stays here side by side, leading us. It's reasoned faith. Even I, as a medium, never. Oh, the Spirit say, let's do this. Okay, I'm reasoning. We don't obey like that. We're like, it makes sense. But can we ask questions to the good spirit? Of course. Of course, teachers love questions. And the teachers of the beyond love that we are interested in what they're saying, in what they're counseling us. Again, Sergio, This test of reasoning regarding the evaluation of communications. It's not simple though. It's easier said than done, right?
It goes back to that knowledge of ourselves, like and of spiritism and of moral teachings and all of that. So I think we were chatting a little bit before about it, and it's like if we not know ourselves, we do not study properly, more we're gonna be fooled with fake messages. More we're gonna be tricked in believing in things that are not really truth. So that's the one of the beauty of the spiritism, that we see a little lack everywhere in the world, in every religion, is like the study and the eagerness of study, and the way they're like, hey, let's analyze it. Even today, when I talk to many friends, I see like people don't really know how to read and analyze a text
Yeah.
correctly nowadays. I feel a lot of lack of this. Maybe I got an excellent professor when I was a kid to like reading, analyzing like the grammar of it, what it means when you write this way or that way. Maybe I did. I was lucky enough growing up, but it's still, you see a lot of that. So you don't. If we don't have that knowledge, how can we analyze? How can we know the difference? Maybe the tone will be easy, but sometimes they can fake it. They can fake a good tone, or they can fake the tone that we think is right. They can fake it everything. So the importance of studying and really understanding, trying to understand it. Like Mackenzie said before, the truth is very subjective. Like we are learning pieces of the truth. We are just that little tree coming out of the seed, like you said, Vanessa. So we only know tiny little bit. We don't know we're gonna become that tree yet. We're still working on that. We're still learning who we are, who we will be, that we're destined to be. We're destined to be good. We're destined to be a perfect spirit. How long that's gonna take depends on us. Depends on how much we want. We study, we do, we understand. So I think that's the beauty that Kardec is bringing here. Like, yes, there are a lot of ways of seeing the trickery, but if you don't study, you don't know, you will be tricked. You will be deceived. Sometimes our egos or our emotions can completely blind us. Like you mentioned, like, hey, Paul was inspired enough to know what the I missed the word now. The lady told him that, like, hey, you're trying to get in my ego.
Yeah.
He was smart enough to see it. Would I be? I don't think so. I don't know. Am I gonna judge myself for it? No, I'm not perfect yet. I'm learning. So if I fall there, like it's a learning experience, and you're like, okay, I learned from it. I won't fall again on that one at least.
Exactly. So the first way he says is to submit the communication to the test of reasoning. The second, he says, is to see the agreement of the teaching when the same principle is taught in several places, as we said before, right? So I'll give an example that I said programs ago. We were in a mediumistic meeting here in the United States, in Virginia. The good spirits were telling us about the importance of the spiritist literature for you, especially teens. And they were saying, it's important to create it in the way that they find most appealing. And if you see the teen literature, especially in the United States, it's all about this. I don't know if I'm going to say the pronunciation right. Anime, anime, manga,
Mhm.
whatever that is, right? My daughter's getting into that too. So it's like, how are you going to speak to them in their language, in their style? And then they said, call this person in another country who dedicates himself to these works and encourage him to do it. I said, okay, I'm just gonna deliver the mess. So I called the next day. And this author of these books, he said to me, believe it or not, I've already started a book on this, but I haven't finished. And then he sent to me what he started. And it's precisely what the Spirit said. So they wanted him to continue the work. And it's teamwork effort. The group of spirits that are working the spiritist movement around the world doesn't change because we are in this country, that country. They're all interconnected. They are all friends. They are all operating under the same coordination. And then we may be different people in different places materially, but the order of events come from the same source. The question is it coming from the same source? How we will know? The second criterion, if what we are learning here is like what is there and it passes the first criteria of reasoning, let's go for it. Right, Mackenzie? Why not? Right? Why not? For example, you and Francisca Kranz, at a time when the internet wasn't as easy as it is nowadays with StreamYard. We didn't have the video at Kardec Radio. It was before 2016 when Facebook released its live. We could only do the audio recording. And you and Francisca recorded the studies of books by Chico Xavier, um, especially of the author Andre Lewis. I know people who claim to be spiritists come to me and say, do you believe in everything Andre Lewis says? And I say, why wouldn't I? Uh, how would you address this question since you have done the studies yourself, Mackenzie?
Yeah, it's interesting because that was a question that was put like probably right at the beginning when the first book came out. I mean, when No Solar came out, it was like this huge thing, and nobody, you know, a lot of people didn't want to publish. A lot of people were, wow, what is this whole story of this um, city? And so Kardec already spoke about it, but it's like, okay, um, okay, maybe in the first book you don't know it yet. Then you wait for the second book, and then you wait for the third book, and then the fourth book, and then you see that they are not contradicting themselves.
Mhm.
Even if it's like a different spirit, let's say,
Yeah.
that comes and uses the name of Andre Luis, but if the message is the same as it was said in the previous book, why would it be? Uh, why wouldn't you trust it? So,
Yeah.
and then we have the other thing, which is there are books that were not psychographed by the same medium.
Yes.
Same spirit would come to two different mediums. They didn't know what the other chapter was, and then the book just follows through as if it's one only person writing, which was.
Yeah.
So it is so interesting. I mean, of course they can question it, and what to my um, what I like to say is this. I mean, one day people were questioning me, oh, why is Einstein correct? I said, Einstein is correct because everybody asked Einstein if he was correct, and everybody tested what he said. It's
Yeah.
not because it's Einstein. It's not because it's Andre Luis. It's not because it's Emmanuel. It's not the name. Once again, you go back to the name. It's not the name.
No.
It's about what's inside what that person does and writes and the conclusions are. It's the same thing. Oh, everybody tests Einstein's theories, and because of what he did, we now have cell phones, and not only him, of course, but we have a lot of things because he found out what gravitational forces were, what relativity is, speed of light, and all that stuff. And people still doubt it.
Yes.
That's fine. You just go and check it. There's no problem. The high level spirits, they will never be uh, flabbergasted because you're questioning them. It's going to be the other way around. It's Kardec says that in that same paragraph there. If you ask, if and you said that, Vanessa, if you ask a good spirit, if I can ask him more questions to probe into the question, and if they have time in the allotted time, they will do it. If
Yeah.
not this time, it will be next time. But if you ask a person or a spirit that doesn't know how to explain, who doesn't know what to explain, who has no basis, the
Yeah.
person will like go into different topics, will like, and then they will be completely like lost in the explanation. So, and that's us, or to be more blunt, that's me. If I don't know something and I want to appear that I know something, I will like do a small talk and say something. But a good spirit, a spirit that knows what he's talking about and is here for a serious reason, they will love questioning. They will love, explaining a little bit more and saying, next time we will talk more if we have more time and so on. But we'll never like um, escape from a question just because.
Exactly. So, for example, the test of reasoning. If I am driving, I see a homeless, and I feel that there is a voice saying, "Go and help." Why would I doubt this voice? Bad spirits don't want us to help people at all. Only good spirits do. What kind of spirit would tell you, for example, go to the Spiritist Center? What kind of spirit would tell you to go to a Spiritist Center? An evil spirit? Why? If you go to the Spiritist Center and all you do is prayer, studying, talking about evolution, charity, progress. So, of course, and I'm saying this, friends, because Sergio and Mackenzie, you know that after the pandemic, during the pandemic, many people were, all of us, we were in our homes. And to date, there are many people who are having a hard time leaving their homes and getting back into action, going to the Spiritist centers to study, to help. I know many people who were workers and they retreated, retired, saying, "Oh, it's my turn." I learned with the pandemic. What did you learn? To be selfish? Because that's not what it came for. It came for you to think more of others. If you haven't learned, then you're not helping the planet. So, Sergio, it's the reasoning that comes to us, right? And we need to practice this inside of us. We're all mediums. Didn't Kardec say that? That we're all mediums.
Yes. I think there's a saying that's like common sense is not that common. And it's like it's basically what we are talking before is like lack of knowledge, a lack of preparation, lack of trying to be better. Because sometimes it's easier for me to stay in the comfortable environment of my home, not risking, not doing anything, not improving myself, than actually putting ourselves out there. Of course, each case is a case. I'm generalizing abruptly here, so let's try to I'm trying to be like, hey, it's okay, you can go through that, but at the same time you should start thinking like, how can I help the other? Maybe if you don't feel comfortable to leave your home, it's okay to help some other way. There are infinite ways of helping. There's infinite way of being good, of improving ourselves, of growing, of learning. So Kardec is just like, use the reason, try to study, try to educate yourself, try to learn morally, try to use your heart, use your intuitions to actually connect to the good you, to the good part of your guardian angels, to everybody that's around us to help us. Like, it's so much. The beauty of like the good spirits is like we have a tendency to like always focus on the bad spirits or the obsessors or the people, the spirits are gonna tell us bad things. There's a saying that I love is like, a cloud will never be bigger than a sun. So the cloud can be, the darkness can be as big that we think. At a huge hurricane passing by, the sun is still behind it, and it's bigger, much more potent. So who you're going to connect to, like the sun or the cloud, and who you're going to be using to like try to ask for that help or that connection of your heart. So that's, I think that's what we have really have to be thinking of. Like sometimes intellectually we might not be there to understand the way that some writers write, or some ways that they're very fancy, and that's okay too. There'll be other writers that will bring the information in a way that we will understand. Can be a saying a bus passing by and say like, hey, be good. Something very simple.
Yeah,
Or it can be a very beautiful poem by a very special
yeah.
spirit or something like that, that will teach us whatever touch our hearts is what it should touch our hearts. And God,
And exactly. And by the way, the good spirits love simplicity. They love humility, as Paul of Tarsus said, and it's in the book that Mackenzie mentioned, Paul and Stephen. His talisman is selflessness and trusting God. So humility is all there is for us to be in connection with those good spirits. We're learning that. We are learning as we go. But I have some friends here who are writing to us. Okay. Um, Thank you, Gabriel Inácio, for your explanation. I know Sarah is asking about subtitles. We apologize, Sarah. Our system, I have to find out if there is that possibility, but that's a good point. And JS is asking why Sergio and I have different versions of Jesus. It's just a painting.
oh.
It's just a painting. It's just to remind us. I mean, we don't need images, but it, it's just a way for us to feel it, and people are allowed to, right? So whatever Jesus you have, go to Amazon. There's so many
Oh yeah.
pictures, right?
Mine I found on a thrift store and I loved it the way it was and I bought it. I got it. Like it
Beautiful.
reminds me.
Yes, any version. And for those, by the way, since we're talking about Jesus, he is our guiding star. No matter whether we agree or disagree, but reasoning tells that he has given us the highest ethical moral code, though we know people have used and abused of his love and his um, and his simplicity.
And
Mm,
talking about contradictions in Jesus, he says, I came I came not to bring peace, but the sword. I came not to bring peace, but division. So it is amazing how
yeah,
even the simplest messages can bring us into division instead of working together to find a common way. And what he was saying was, I mean, the message will bring division, and we'll put the father against mother, father against son, and son against. Why? Because we are still so low, like Sergio was saying, we're so low that instead of aiming towards the high, aiming towards the sun, we focus on the cloud. And then, because we focus on the cloud, everybody separates instead of going together towards the other one, which is much higher there. So the message is very powerful, but it brought division. And we know it brought division. We have so many different religions, not only because of they are religions and they are different religions, because we have the inter religional whatever, however it's called, talks among religions and trying to find the main points that bring us together. But because for centuries, and unfortunately even today with some wars, we have some people that are from this religion, some people from that religion, they fight, um, but because they focus on what Saul was, right? Not in what Paul became, right? And he wanted to force down what he thought on the Romans, on the Greeks, and on the Hebrews. So that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to force it down. Now he wants to spread the message and bring people together, which is a completely different way of seeing the same thing that he wanted to do, but through completely different means. And Jesus contradicts himself in that sense, but it's just an apparent contradiction, because he's actually going deeper in the problem, showing us that we are still paying attention to the wrong things instead of to the right things. So the name
Yes.
is not important.
No.
The form is not important. Well, everything is important. Let's say the other way around. Everything is important, but what is the most important thing? Is what the goal is. Is actually what it's really said. It what's if you crush
Yeah.
the orange, right? What does it come out of the orange? So if the orange is sane, is not bad, we
Yeah.
will drink a nice juice. But if it's bad, doesn't matter.
Friends, the conversation is so good. So good to study together.
It is. It is
I
indeed.
am loving it. But we have a friend here. The topic about the crisis, a hot topic. And Kelly is saying originally what made the Christ unique at the time the martyr. We don't have time to answer, but we will say two things. Go to kardecflix.com and you'll find one tab named Jesus. Click on it. It's going to guide you to programs at Kardec Radio that we've done in the past that can answer your questions. If you want book, the book Good News by the Spirit Humberto de Campos through the medium Chico Xavier. And if it's not enough, get the app, The Chosen, and watch the series. They have a few seasons already in place, and you can go there 4 seasons for you to watch The Chosen and get to know Jesus' deeds. His deeds is not something trivial. Kelly, we're talking about Kardec. Feel free to go to Kardec Flix. Kardec Flix. Let me type it in here for you. Kardec Flix. It's our Spiritist Netflix. Okay? Spiritism in a click. You go there and you find the subtopic Jesus. For now, to wrap up, because we have to wrap up, I know people want to sleep. If they're watching on demand later, they're probably ready for something else. For now, teaser. Next week, when we come back, we're going to talk about the consequences of Spiritism. Whoa, who knew there are consequences, huh? We're going to talk about it. For now, Sergio and Mackenzie. Sergio first, please tell us your final comment for those who are watching us, studying with us, and want more.
Never. Sorry. I always keep studying. I always keep reading. Vanessa gave you lots and lots of options to read, to listen, to watch, and to be inspired by. Like with Kardec Radio has so much, and there are so many more resources nowadays. When I started when you guys started, I'm not gonna even go there because you were pioneers of Spiritism here. When I started as in the US 20 years ago, there wasn't much, just what you guys did and working overtime for it. Nowadays, you have so much. We
Yeah.
have so much in English, in Spanish, in Portuguese.
Yes.
Read it, like study it, analyze it, read one text and really like, what did I get from it? But one little advice: never read it thinking, "Oh, that would be so good for my neighbor," because that's not the point. It's for us. Spiritism is for us. It's for our heart, not for others. It's everything that we read, that we see, that touches, or you think is gonna touch someone. Is for you. It's for me. So that's the beautiful part of spiritism for me. That's what I learned from spiritism. So many years studying. Learn how to be, bring everything to yourself.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Mackenzie, what would you like to say?
Just thank you. Thank you for inviting me, because with this, I'm studying, and like Sergio said, studying, reflecting, and analyzing it again, because For us to educate ourselves, what we need is to repeat it, to repeat the good things. So that's the good education. So, and Kardec says that in one of the books too. So many citations and quotes. So let's repeat it. I heard a sentence these days that it's in my mind. I've heard it before, but it never stuck to me. But it's this week. I just heard it like 2 days ago. It's like fake it till you make it. We are not perfect.
Yeah.
We are not the happiest people. We are not charitable enough. So because I'm not charitable enough, will I stop being charitable because of that? No, it's the other way around. If I'm not good enough, you try to be good. You know that you're not good yet, but you keep doing it until you become good. And that's how it is. I mean, I can only become a good photographer, right? Like Sergio is, because he kept doing it. And I'm pretty sure that he looks at his first photos and he says, "Oh my God, what was I thinking?" And the same thing with everything that we do. If we want to be a good spiritist, what we need to do is to be a spiritist. The good part will become later, right?
Yeah.
If I want to be a better person, be a person, be the best person you can be. Um, will there be contradictions? Yes. There will be paradoxical things that I do. Yes. Like Paul says, the good that I want to do, I don't do it. The bad that I don't want to do, I do it. But I keep trying to do the good thing and the right thing. So that's what we learn with Spiritism. And I wish this to everybody as I wish this to myself as well.
It is a joy to be with you, Sergio and Mackenzie. Thank you so much. I learned so much tonight. It's good to study time and again. Effort and repetition, as Andre Luis says, and Mackenzie reinforced. So, when you guys come back next week, we're going to item 100. Kardec is going to ask this question: what good is the study of Spiritism after all? We love Kardec. And as Mackenzie is saying, there is a point in which you start doing it because you just love it. You say, why do you do it? I don't know. I feel so much joy and love. There's no other way to customize our lives, to trim our lives in a new way of living. That's why we're studying this. Is that why? We'll see next week, right? We'll see next week. Thank you, Sergio. Thank you, Mackenzie. Thank you, friends, for being here with us. Come back next week and join us for more with Kardec on what is Spiritism. Thank you, friends.